All right, there we go. Sweet. Always something weird starting off the stream, right? All right, welcome in, guys. Welcome in. How's it going today? This is just another episode of Anti-Meta Anthony, I guess. Not really this time around. It's kind of weird. Unfortunately, this week we have some bad news. We are not anti-meta Anthony. We are not so anti-meta Anthony's today. We played a relatively meta hero for this past weekend's RTN. We did fortunately win and qualify for Nats. But gonna go into kind of the thought process why I decided to go with Aurora Shooting Star. But welcome in, guys. Welcome in. How are we doing on this fine Tuesday? Let me make sure everything's good. It's being a little weird today, huh? All right, here we go. Sweet. All right, cool. Yeah. I guess we'll start with the reasoning and then kind of lay out the video here or the stream today. So for today, we're gonna go over why I chose to play Aurora in this past weekend, the decision making behind it, other possible decks that I would have brought. Obviously, if you've watched my recent streams in the past, I definitely considered. Sorry, this is being a little weird. Give me 1 second here, guys. Sorry. Just gonna make sure everything's okay. All right, I think we're okay. Always troubleshooting the stream, but all right. Yeah. So obviously, if you watched the past few weeks, we did go over some potential decks that we could have brought, but we ended up on Aurora just because we thought it was the best chance at qualifying at least. I didn't want to not qualify for Nats. My elo is definitely not good at the moment just because I've had some pretty bad performances recently at callings and whatnot. So we chose Aurora, and then we'll go over the deck, the 80 itself, and then we'll finally end with the tournament report, going over all the matchups that I played. Played a couple teammates, played a couple people twice, so it's a lot of fun that was had over the weekend. All right, let's get into why I chose Aurora. So there were some decks on my radar. I wanted to initially see if I could break open one of the hunted heroes. I know Syndra is relatively not solved, but more like more or less figured out in terms of like what cards are most efficient, how to use the daggers well with flick knives, the vest. There are a couple ways to build her, but I think this is just right now the most efficient and the most aggressive. So it's hard to play against. So I didn't want to play Syndra just because I didn't want to play a bunch of mirrors. I thought it was going to be very popular. I didn't want to play this sort of aggro mirror that is more or less more linear. I think Aurora, although an aggro deck, has a lot more interesting lines that you can take with stuff like Somersault, Sigil of Suffering. There's a lot of different tools you can play to kind of get edges in certain ways. I think Aurora classifies better as a toolbox deck rather than like an aggro deck, your stereotypical aggro deck at least. She can go tall. She can use one action point really well. There's so many different things she can do. She's such a super versatile deck that I think it allows for you to show your skill expression, which is super cool. So that's why I think I ended up on her. I didn't want to play Fang because I couldn't figure out how to play Fang at all, to be frank. Make sure. Yeah, I couldn't figure out Fang. There is a top 8. In the top 8 that I played, there was a Fang on a list that not a lot of people expected, but shout out to Jarek. We'll go over that when we go to the tournament report. And then for Aracne Marionette and Aracne Slip of the Cracks, I don't own a Flick Knives yet, too. So maybe that's why I didn't play Syndra. I don't own a Flick Knives. I have one coming in, but it's not ready yet, so I decided not to play a hero that used Flick Knives. So ended up going with either Riptide, Fai, or Aurora. And why I ruled out Riptide so fast was because usually I'm okay with losing to Viserai. I've accepted that, it's hard to be Viserai. He can just stack Rune Chance if he sees that you're on a trap heavy list. So it can be definitely pretty rough. But with the upcoming popularity of Verdant as well, just adding another tough matchup to Riptide's sort of matchup plan, I think really dissuaded me from playing Riptide. There's just so many harmful decks out there that not necessarily are targeting Riptide, but are very much so hurting him just because they have a lot of arcane damage, and traps obviously don't trigger on arcane damage. So pretty tough to choose Riptide there. It's always a pocket option, but I felt like this weekend just wasn't it for it, especially because I needed to qualify still. Definitely decided against Riptide, unfortunately, for once. And then we had Fai. So in my head, I still think Fai is great into the Syndra matchup. He has some different tools in order to combat like fatigue and whatnot. So I thought he was the better Draconic Ninja to bring to a tournament, just because if you don't want to play the mirror, or if you want to combat fatigue a little bit better or ice a little bit better, you have this sort of inevitability of the Phoenix Flame and Searing Ember Blade over and over and over. So there's like inevitable fatigue with Fai, which is super cool that Syndra doesn't have currently in her kit. Kind of like her inevitability comes from like flicking daggers and doing like the unpreventable damage. But with CYB in the format and like a lot of damage prevention, like Shelter from the Storm, and a lot of people play Calming Breeze now too. There's a lot of ways to stop this sort of flicking damage. So that's why I really like Fai. I was really high on Fai. And then leading up to the event, I decided against Fai just because I thought he would get a little bit too much side hate from Syndra being popular. So there was going to be a lot of erase faces, a lot of different assassins coming into the meta, and Ninja is always going to be a pretty rough matchup into any assassin. So knowing that, I was kind of in a pinch. I knew that there was going to be a lot of assassin, but I also knew there was going to be a lot of Viscerai. So I couldn't play Riptide because although it was good into the assassins, I knew I would be playing some Viscerais. And I can't play Fai because there was going to be a lot of assassins anyway, and I think the Fai matchup into Viscerai isn't good enough to warrant playing it anyway. So I fell back on the deck that I built full rarity and just kept in my deck box for for like months. I took out my Aurora deck and started editing it to what I think is a good version to play into this meta where Viscerai is so close to LLing. I think it's a good sort of toolbox deck, like I said before, to kind of combat the meta and kind of be able to attack in different avenues. And it's a very versatile deck, even though it is innately, like I said, an aggro deck that pumps out all these 0-for-4s. You're able to do so much on offense, on defense, that it makes it super hard to interact with sometimes. The fact that you can block 6 and then somersault back those 2 cards to use them as offensive tools. Somersault being a 0-card 6, like math-wise, is really insane, but like it also prevents a lot of on-hits, which is super relevant in this meta. There's so many times where I blocked for 5 or 6 with 2 cards, and then I was able to somersault them back, and if they reacted like an assassin reacted, I was able to like Sigil or Shelter from the Storm to get there. But yeah, basically took Aurora just because I felt like it was not really the safe pick, but more like the toolbox deck that I thought had the most chances for me to kind of show my skill expression as a player, and then also use those tools to win the tournament. As Aurora, you never really feel like you're gonna lose, so that's why it's super good. What do you think about the new Armory deck? I think there are some pretty good cards in there. That 0-for-3 that goes +1 if it has go again, and it blocks for 3, that's like auto include in the deck, super insane. I think the Aurora can only get better, right? So I think people put her off as kind of like this deck that might not have the best numbers sometimes in terms of like the ceilings, I guess, of the deck. Like obviously the Arc Lightning turns are big, but some people view like Viscerai as this like very high ceiling deck where you can make just 20 rune chants in a turn and just blow people out. Aurora can't really do that without Arc Lightning and a lot of setup, but she plays so hyper consistent and she's able to convert her hands very well, and she has a lot of tools to kind of get around awkward sorts of hands as well, like Snapdragon Scalers or Embodiments of Lightning or fuse cards like Lightning Press. There's a lot of instances in the deck that you can start with Starfall. Just a very toolboxy deck, and I think a lot of people write that off because it's so hyper consistent that there's not really any way to kind of gain huge advantages. It's kind of like incremental advantages over time. Over turn cycle, just winning every turn cycle. Kind of reminds me of the mid-range Riptide, where you're trying to win every turn cycle and eventually you just get there because Arcane and physical mix is really hard to block. But yeah, I mean, with the army deck, it's going to be insane too, so I'm really excited for it. I'm really excited to look towards locals, and hopefully 2 other locals are generous enough to trade me their Rainbow Foil copy of the Majestics for the non-foil copy and whatever difference it may be. But yeah, decided on Aurora, went to the tournament, had a lot of fun, and let's get right into the deck list. We'll kind of go over why I chose the cards I chose. You know that I always like to throw a little spice in there, so definitely had a spice card in the sideboard. It involves the Outsiders token, so if you can guess right now, you definitely know your Flesh and Blood cards, but if you don't know, we'll go over it when we get to the sideboard. Alright, let's switch over to the deck. I will post this deck in the chat as well if you wanted to follow along on your own browser. So, we decided on Aurora, and I always like to make puns with my deck list name. So, this deck list is called Aurora CC. So, I always taking those. It's a pun, I guess. I don't know what I was referencing. I just thought it was funny because it said Aurora, but maybe it's just when I built this deck list, taking too many rune chants from Viscerai made me think of taking damage from Aura, so I think my most proud Aurora deck list ever was my Portland Aurora deck list that I potentially was going to play. I named it Portland Auroragan. Like Portland, Oregon. Yeah, I know, this is pretty terrible, but that was probably the proudest I've ever had in terms of a deck list name. So, for those that don't know, Aurora, create an embodiment of lightning, only activated if you've played a lightning token for 2 resources. So, typically her pitch curve revolves around if she has a blue, she can swing Starfall and make an embodiment of lightning, either to power her current turn or to go into next turn with an embodiment of lightning. So, very powerful ability. She does play a lot of generics, but she ends up using a lot of the lightning cards as utility cards, kind of like bouncing stuff, buffing stuff in reactions like lightning press. So there's the lightning kind of supplements the deck very well, and then sort of like enhances the strength of all these like really strong generics. So we'll get right into it. So start off, we have 8 equipment. I always love having 8 equipment. It makes sideboarding really easy. 8 equipment into 60 main deck. Or 60 in quote unquote in your deck, and then we have 12 cards in the sideboard. That could be any sort of like a variation, or it could be like just 4 play sets of 3. So it makes it super clean. I went into it with Balance of Justice and Crown of Providence. So the reason why I had both is Crown of Providence obviously very good into Assassin. Lets you filter your arsenal on a Leave No Witnesses turn. Lets you kind of maintain that 5-card hand and helps against disruption of CNC. And then Balance of Justice, obviously very good into the Aurora Mirror. It's good into KO, just in case they play KO. Or any KOs are floating around. And then it does have some, it's I think a little bit better into Syndra than Crown of Providence. Obviously, Syndra can play Breaking Point. But I think the Balance of Justice kind of changes how the Syndra plays. Where you can kind of... They're always going to be threatening 1-card draw, at least, with Mask of Momentum. But there are times when they draw Ancestral Empowerment, where they try to cheat an extra card. Now they kind of have to be wary of letting Mask hit as well, because if they get Ancestral to +1 and then also trigger Mask, now it's turning on the Balance of Justice, and then you can draw an extra card, which is super good in the mirror, because if you have a 5-card hand, it can turn into a 6-card hand, and with Arc Lightning, that's just so much damage. So that's why those 2 helmets are a mainstay in Aurora. I think it's foolish to not play both of them. If you had to choose one, don't, because I think you should play both. For the chess pieces, we have both Dyadic Carapace and Tunic. So Tunic is kind of the mainstay in most matchups. It's really good when you go first. It's sometimes pretty good when you go second. And you basically use it into every matchup that goes super long. There are some aggro matchups where you go first and you use it just because you get that counter first. And then you can probably get to a point where you can use Starfall for free. And then block with it later for 3 value innately. So I think there are matchups where Tunic is basically worth the same as Dyadic if you think about the math. We can use it for Starfall for 2 and then block with it for 1, whereas Dyadic Carapace always blocks for 3. Never really using the AB piece on Dyadic Carapace unless you're playing against Kano, but you don't have a lot of blues anyway. So Dyadic comes in when you're going second and when you're looking to block a lot more. There's a lot of on hits that you're looking to send through. So like stuff like Syndra when you're going second. If you win the die roll, you definitely want to go second, and then you just kind of board up with Dyadic, Grasp, and Balance of Justice, and you're playing a lot of D-Reacts to stop the mask. It is a very awkward sort of battle against Syndra because of the Flick Knives, but you typically want to block, in my opinion, it depends on context. You can either block the first chain or the third chain. I like blocking on the third chain, mostly because it forces them to Flick Knives there, and then they have one more chance, usually if on a 4-card hand, to swing one more time to get a draw, so I know exactly what their hand is, and there's no tricks. But some people like blocking on the first chain link to kind of force the Flick Knives out early, and then you can decide on which one later you want to do. It's all based on hand context and how many cards you want to give up, but it's always pretty bad to do the second one, just because you let the first one hit, the second one hits for sure because of Flick Knives, and the third one kind of forces you to block unless you want to give them Mask, and they still have a card in hand like Ancestral that could result in a really awkward block. So against Syndra, that's kind of like the general blocking points, and then Dyadic really helps with that on break points and whatnot. Like if they throw a breaking point, I can throw Dyadic in front of it with a 3 block and fully block the 5. So pretty good stuff. We got 2 feet equipment as well. We have both Lightning Greaves and Snapdragon Scalers. Snapdragon Scalers being probably the most used one over Lightning Greaves. I like using Lightning Greaves as obviously AB against the Wizard sometimes, but for the most part, I try to run. I'm not very, I guess, I'm not hesitant to run AB0 a lot of times if I'm going first. If I need some sort of like aggressive game plan into a certain deck. The versatility of Snapdragon Scalers giving like a breaking turn and enabling it is super strong. Like if you draw 4 non-go again cards, you're able to play a lightning card like Lightning Surge or Gone in a Flash or Flittering Charge, and then you play snaps, and then now everything is turned on. Like your Starfall's turned on, your hero abilities turned on. You could do like 4 into Pitch of Blue, Starfall, use the Embodiment of Lightning to give your next attack go again, and then now you end on another attack. So like it kind of converts your entire hand very well with Snapdragon Scaler. So it's kind of there as a failsafe, but there are some times where you use it just to be super aggressive, like on a snatch turn with Lightning Press. There's use cases where it can turn into an aggressive sort of card, but more often than not, I find myself using it to kind of turn a really bad hand into a really good hand. So it's kind of the failsafe on those Runeblade hands that everyone gets. And then we have Lightning Greaves as well. I use it mostly to go second against like Runeblades. So like if I'm going against Aurora or Viscerai and I'm going second, I like using Lightning Greaves because it doesn't let them kind of chip any damage turn 0. Like if you ran AB0 going second, what they could do is they can like, Channel Lightning Valley ping you for 1, and that's just unstoppable damage that they're doing. So some pretty nasty stuff. I like using it to kind of deny that go first value game plan, especially if they stack Rune Chance as well. And having the extra like 1 block too is pretty good when you're going second, just because you kind of have to maintain tempo. They're going to probably have the first 5-card hand. And your hand might not convert well, so you're probably going to be on the heavy side of blocking pretty early. So, and then lastly we have Starfall, obviously just the classic staple Aurora weapon, almost as good as Rosetta Thorn, except only half as good because it only swings for 2, sometimes 1. But it's super good in Aurora because you play so many lightning cards, and it always has go again. And it's one of my favorite plays to lead off a turn where you either Tunic Starfall for 1, and then you play an instant to kind of bait out the 2 block. So if you have Electrostatic Discharge or Somersault, you can start off the turn with just 1, and then if they block because they're scared of Channel, now it feels good because they wasted a card basically in trade with their Electrostatic Discharge that basically was at no cost because it's going to buff the next attack anyway. But yeah, that's the equipment suite. Moving on, we have a pretty typical lineup of Aurora cards. Nothing too crazy. We do have the Arcane Shockwave, obviously just good number card. We have Burn Up Shock, Electromagnetic Somersault, obviously very good, 3 of. Just most of the time it comes in for 5 or 6 values. Sometimes it's 4 on offense where you give Flittering Charge go again, and you return it to your hand, or it's Second Strike or Rabble. This card is always going to be like basically a 0 for 4 or a 0 for 6, which is insane. God forbid we know what it does in Starvo, so it's already very good in Aurora. And then for the there are 3 2-ofs in the deck that I don't always want to see, like a clump of in my hand. So that's Electrostatic Discharge, Sigil of Solace, and Lightning Surge. So I knew I wanted like six copies of like this sort of slot in my deck. I just wasn't sure of what ratios. Like I was bouncing around like 1 Lightning Surge, 3 Sigils, and 2 Electrostatic Discharge, or 3 Electrostatic Discharge, 1 Lightning Surge, and 2 Sigil of Solace. There's so many bouncing ratios that I had in mind. But the main point is to kind of minimize non-blocking cards because of this meta where Assassin's so prevalent, Syndra does so much damage. You want to be able to stop these chain links, and you want to stop these marks or stop these on-hits and give the full value of Somersault. So more slots were dedicated to blocking. You'll see later on too in the blues. Actually, I think you can see right here. Instead of running Sigil of Lightning, we're running Heaven's Claw again, just because it blocks 3. Heaven's Claw is so bad. Like if you ever play Heaven's Claw, you are down bad. Like your turn is so bad, and I'm sorry that you had to go through the Runeblade hand. But if we're resolving the left side of Heaven's Claw ever instead of the top pitch zone or the block card, then we're down bad for an Aurora turn. But Heaven's Claw is just basically there to block 3. It's super good Somersault value, and it's just really good into this meta, I feel, just because you're able to block so much. So going back to that, you can kind of see the theme of the deck now, where it kind of revolves around less so of the instances and more so of the more generic cards and the power of the generic cards to kind of carry us through. And then moving on, we have Enlightened Strike, as always. We have Entwined Lightning, Flittering Charge, Garnet Flash, so very typical Aurora sort of main board. Lightning Press as one of the instances. Lightning Press, I think, is an instant where it's powerful enough to warrant 3 of for sure, just like Somersault. Lightning Press, when you kind of withhold information, turn Snatch into a 2-card 7 that draws a card, so it could be like a 2-card 10. Lightning Press is just so insane. It's the reason you get around a lot of stuff, like if they block your Flittering Charge just to stop Channel Lightning Valley, you can Lightning Press it and then also give Flittering Charge go again. So Lightning Press just works so well in this deck. It's just such a staple, and at the very worst, if you don't find yourself using it to block or using it to buff anything, you can always pitch it for Starfall for 2. So and keep the Channel Lightning Valley around if you need to. So it's super versatile. Like I said before, 2 Lightning Surges. You never really want to draw a lot of these. They don't have innately go again, and not often now do you have the time to kind of set up your arsenal for these sort of plays. Like Syndra's going super fast, so very often you don't have an arsenal. And then Assassin threatens the arsenal so much with Leave No Witnesses and Mark of the Funnel Web and Command and Conquer that you're never really safe when you arsenal Lightning Surge. I feel like in this meta. So we're down to 2 Lightning Surges, still blocks for 2, which is insane, and it's a Lightning card still. Still a good 0 for 4 to have in the deck. Next we have Ravenous Rabble and Scar for Scar. Just both 0 for 4s. Rabble most of the time, actually. That have go again, usually, if you're playing the game. And kind of trading life very well. Second Strike. I know a lot of people don't like Second Strike. I personally love Second Strike just because there's ways to kind of manipulate damage in Aurora and make it very difficult for people to block. Like if you start your turn with Burn Up Shock, most people might not even block the first Arcane just because they'd rather save the cards in hand to block the physical damage in order to stop the Burn Up from hitting 2. So Burn Up Shock into like Second Strike is just insane because if they spend a whole card, now they have 3 cards in hand to block 4 or 5 more attacks that all threaten 4 Arcane. So Second Strike, obviously very good. Aurora makes Second Strike even better because of all the modal damage. Next we have Sigil of Solace. Like I said before, trying to limit all the instances. Sigil of Solace is still good. You definitely still want some sort of ratio or percentage of drawing this on the first turn and being able to heal to 43 or 46 if you draw both. If you're lucky enough to draw both. Better lucky than good every time. And then moving on, we got the other Sigil of Suffering. This is the most broken D-React in Aurora. You have Channel Lightning Valley out. They tap out. You play Sigil of Suffering. You not only block for 4, you ping them for 1 damage. So it's a 0 for 5. And then now you also draw a card. So it's like a 0 card 5 that replaces itself, which is insane. And just super good. It kind of presents also a late game sort of threat where you have to worry about Sigil of Suffering, and Burn Up Shock. So two threats to kind of like if you're at 2 or 1, you kind of have to worry about the instant speed Arcane or the defensive Arcane coming in. You have to save pitch or leave some resources floating, or maybe you're scared to swing out because of this effect. So that's Aurora's kind of shtick late game. That sort of reckless swing damage that everyone's scared of definitely could happen. Next we have Snatch, the most broken 0-for-4 of all time. I thought it was funny that everyone was talking about banning the 0-for-4 D-Reacts when this card is... if those are banned, this card would be insane. Like, Snatch would just be, like, maybe, like, a $10 card now. Just because of the inability to block it if we didn't have Sync Below or Fade Foreseen. But now we have so much. We have Shelter now, so we're fine. 0-for-4 that replaces itself if it hits. Pretty insane. In comparison with Lightning Press, or in combination with Lightning Press, super good. Just one of those super insane cards that are always going to be in an aggro deck, basically. Being able to end the chain with a 0-for-4 that draws you a card and sets up your arsenal for next turn, especially is good, just with E-Strike, especially is good if you're able to have sorts of ways to give it go again, like Snapdragon Scalers, or Embodiments of Lightning in this case. Being able to give Snatch go again is so powerful because you can threaten card draw, and if they give you the card draw, it extends your turn even more. And you're able to use the go again and convert your hand even further. So Snatch always going to be in a good aggro deck. Last of the reds, we have Static Shock. Not as good as Arcanic Shockwave, but it does have that text. It's just another ender that blocks for 3. It does 1 damage if it hits. So it doesn't do arcane damage always because people might block it, but it's still block 3 and it's a good chain ender because you don't have to keep a card to fuse with it. But still good. I find that Static Shock is probably one of my favorite cards to block with, just because there are a lot more 0-for-4s that I want to throw, and this one blocks 3. But it can always be a good chain ender. You can also start off your turn with like Arc Lightning Static Shock, and that you're already threatening so much arcane damage just from not blocking Static Shock. You can save your Snatch for later on if they decide to use armor and a card to block the Static Shock. So super good. Arc Lightning is Aurora Specialization. Super insane card. Whenever you go again this turn, deal 1 arcane damage. So this is obviously the best card in Aurora just because you go again so much. Like all your cards say go again. If they don't say go again, if you give them go again with your hero ability or some other method like Arc Lightning, it's even more insane. So Arc Lightning is just one of those turns where it's funny too because it's one of her most powerful cards, and it's one of those that you play first in the chains, kind of like Blood Rush Bellow, where once they play it, you kind of know that you're gonna get fucked up, or messed up. Sorry, you're about to get messed up. Like Arc Lightning, here's 4 attacks that I'll have go again. They're all 0-for-5s now because they are 0-for-4 go again and ping for 1. So you deal with that. Here is a 5 card, like 25 or 30 sometimes even. So pretty insane. You have another instant, Channel Lightning Valley. Powerful enough to play in the deck because it's so powerful. It's instant speed draw card a lot of the time where like you can Starfall for 2 or 1, and if they don't block because they don't think it's Channel Lightning Valley, you can play Channel Lightning Valley and then you draw a card because of the 2 damage from Starfall. You can also play this with like Floating Charge where you swing for 4. They might think it's like a Lightning Press or something so they don't block. And then you slam down the Channel Lightning Valley, and now you draw a card, your Floating Charge gets go again. It's just kind of like Channel Link Fidget, all the other channels before it. You kind of have to put, at the end of the turn, you put a flow counter on it, and you have to put a lightning card for each flow counter, or else it will die. Super insane card, super synergistic with Sigil of Suffering, and just there's so many good plays you can make with it. If you have 2 of these guys out, and you Sigil of Suffering, draw 2, and then on your turn you do like arcane damage and draw 2 more, like you have like a 7-card hand, and it's just insane the possibilities you can do with Channel Lightning Valley. If you high roll these early, Aurora becomes unstoppable. This is where her math kind of excels and kind of breaks the mold. When you can kind of spam Channel Lightning Valley with Sigil of Suffering or Arc Lightning with several cards, or getting extra cards off Balance of Justice if several people draw 2. And lastly, we have the blues. So for the blues, we have Current Funnel and Heaven's Claws. You would play out Current Funnel more often than Heaven's Claws. I think I played Current Funnel once just because it was a really bad hand where I had no go again. So I had to play Lightning Surge from hand Snapdragons it, and then play Current Funnel, swing with Tunic. Current Funnel gave the next attack Go Again, which is like Static Shock or something. So there are ways for a Current Funnel to be played and make the game more efficient, where if you're lacking Go Again, you can play the Lightning card, if it's a Lightning action card, and then play... if the last card, if the last action card you play this turn was Lightning, this and the next action card you play will be Get Go Again. So you could do stuff like Arc Lightning, give this Go Again, but Arc Lightning gives you Go Again anyway. You can play Lightning Surge from Arsenal and then play Current Funnel, and then now your next action card like Heat Strike or Snatch gets Go Again. So you can work with that pretty well. And then lastly, we got Heaven's Claw, the best block 3 in the game. If you ever use it for its attack, you are down bad in Aurora, like I said. So I'm sorry your turn had to be that poor enough to have to warrant using Heaven's Claw. I think I never swung it, but I got it swung against me because I think one or twice actually. I think one time it got nude from Banish because I blocked with it, and then the other time Arcane Marionette hit it with Infiltrate and then used their Tunic to play it, and I was like, dang, that's pretty good. At least it wasn't a 0 for 4. They settled for a 1 for 3 that had no on hit, so pretty good. And then that's basically the main 60. That's the main 60 I would play into like aggro decks and whatnot. But there are a lot of sideboard cards that I would probably put in for different matchups. The matchup guide in this deck list isn't updated fully, unfortunately, just because it was like from an older version and I haven't bothered to update it. So I kind of sideboard on the fly for this RTN. But it's still like a general consensus, general sense of like how you should sideboard. Still, like there's a lot of similar cards in the sideboard that were there before. So let me get some water real quick. Jeez. All right. So a card that was there from the past list is Exude Confidence. This card is going to be good in a D-React meta. If you play this in matches where a lot of D-Reacts come in from different decks like Zen, Riptide, Enigma, a lot of decks that aren't looking to kind of race you and more are looking to value trade with you with like Wax-Ons and like D-Reacts and whatnot. So Exude is a really good way to turn those off because they have to give up an attack action card that blocks more than Exude's damage or current damage stack. Or stats, I guess. And there's like some niche cases with like wizards and instances where if you play Exude and they don't manage to stuff it with an attack, they can't activate instances anymore, this combat chain. So you can kind of just threaten lethal damage with Exude on the stack because they can't react to you do anything. So pretty good stuff. I really like it. There's not a lot of blues to support the buffing of damage, but they're theoretically like if you needed to keep a channel around, you could like Exude with two lightning blues like Heaven's Claw or Current Funnel, and then keep Channel Lightning Valley around. But those are few and far in between. Like if you have multiple blues in your hand, you're probably blocking with them. They're just kind of there to have like sometimes have one of each just to power your Starfall into embodiment like cycle, as well as like on the Arc Lightning turns you can make a rune chant and do 1 Arcane on deactivation. Moving on, we have our next tech card. Infectious Host. So I'm sure if you guessed before we started the deck tech, if you guessed why I had the Outsiders tokens in my deck box, and if you guessed Infectious Host, you were correct. I actually played against one of my friends, Chris Iali, team captain of the Age Pro team, and he saw my deck box and he saw that I had the Outsiders tokens, so he was wondering why I had those. And he couldn't figure it out until way later in the tournament that it was actually tech for him. So, Infectious Host says, when this attacks, that was my guess, but I cheated. Yes. Unfortunately, I think I told you, Moises. Or I think maybe you saw. When this attacks a hero, if you control a Frailty token, create a Frailty token under their control, then repeat for Inertia and Blood Red Pox. So, unfortunately, it doesn't give you multiple, I don't think. That's the last time I checked. So if you have 2 Frailty or if you have 2 Blood Rot, it does not repeat twice. So like it only makes 1 of each. So if you have if you get Codex of Frailty, you can get this card and then you can swing at them and then it'll make a Frailty token, and that's typically pretty good against Assassin just because it turns off their daggers, and paying 2 to swing for 0 is just a terrible rate. So there's not really any on it because it's when this attacks. So it just innately does it. And I know a lot of decks in the meta right now are playing Inertia Trap. in the assassin slot, and then also they're playing Spike with Blood Rot. So there are ways for you to get all 3 tokens at once. Like say you get Kiss of Death, Spike with Blood Rotted into Codex of Frailty. You can like start your turn with like a big attack, and then if they inertia trap you, you have all 3. So then if you have Gogan, you can play Infectious Host for 4, and then it gives you them all 3 tokens. So pretty cool tech card. I unfortunately never got to use it. I think against Chris, I ended up attacking with it, but it didn't trigger because I didn't have any tokens. And then in the assassin matchups the rest of the assassin matchups I played, I ended up either banishing it off Mask of the Recurring Nightmares, or I just never saw it. So it's always funny because I put in these fun tech cards that I think are good, and then I never end up seeing them, or when I see them, it just doesn't work. So maybe I'm just terrible at putting tech cards in my deck, but theoretically, this card could be pretty fun into like longer matchups where you attack with it early, get some sort of value out of it if you have a Blood Rot or one of the Outsiders tokens, and then if you get Codex of Frailty, you can use this as the target if it's in your graveyard, and then you can give them a Frailty back. You don't only swing for 3, but it's probably pretty worth it to swing for 3 and then turn off their daggers, so that now they have to play cards from their hand to be able to do damage to you. And then moving on, we have Shelter from the Storm. I am convinced that Shelter from the Storm is not as good as Sink Below and Aurora. I think the sinking effect of the card Sink Below allows you to filter your hand a lot better, and unbrick your hands a lot better too. If you have like an instant, Sink Below saves you, could possibly get you a blocking card, whereas you wouldn't have that with Shelter because you're not able to sink that instant that you're keeping in your hand. Shelter does have the added effect of the prevent 3 damage, the next 3 damage, I guess. So that's good against Syndra. It's good against like Arcane or any assassin where they swing the dagger. You can block this and then block 2 more breakpoints. Pretty good stuff. I mostly played it just because I managed to get 3 extended art shelters, so I had to show off the bling for this deck, especially because my deck is full foil. So I felt like I had to show out and use Shelter from the Storm. But as I played with it, don't worry, guys. You guys don't have to buy this card if you want to play Aurora. You could just use Sink Below. I think it's a little bit better, honestly. Not bad though. It's probably the 3rd best D-React in Aurora, like after Sigil Suffering and Sink Below. Yeah, you probably want to play Shelter if your meta is really heavy in Assassin or Syndra. Definitely don't play Fate Foreseen. Next, we have 2 1-ofs. We have Flicker Wisp and Poison the Well. We're not as heavy into the Flicker Wisp game plan with Arc Lightning just because we don't have the chess piece that's Aether Ironweave. We don't have kind of Dominion to get us the gold token. So we don't have that sort of Flicker Wisp Arc Lightning combo package. So we're just trying to naturally set it up. I think I did it once against a new in my top 8 match where I was able to Arsenal Flicker Wisp. I knew that my Arc Lightning was coming up, and then I was able to combo off without the equipment, just doing 2 Arcane. I think I pinged 6 times, so it's like 12 Arcane just from that combo. So still pretty lethal damage. And then we had Poison the Well just in case CYB decks showed up, and boy did they show up. There were so many CYB decks on Sunday for the RTN. Was really glad that I brought Poison the Well, but once again was never able to use it to stop more than 1 healing. Even against CYB decks, like it just either got stacked and didn't get there fast enough, or I killed them before Poison the Well even mattered. So just another tech card I had in the sideboard that didn't work, but is there as a threat. Like if you pitch 1 Poison the Well, and they see that you pitch the Poison the Well, like for the rest of the game, they kind of have to play scared of the second or the 3rd Poison the Well if you play that many and respect CYB that much. So it's kind of one of those cards like Yellow Pummel or Blue Pummel where if you show it, now the opponent's thinking about how many copies you're running, and like now that fear factor is sort of in the back of their head when they're making their plays. So kind of like a psychological card mostly. Once you show it. And then last we have Warmonger's Diplomacy. This was my main answer into Viserai. I know a lot of people thought about Vaporize Shock. I guess we'll go over that right now too. But my goal with Warmongers is basically do a super wide chain of like 4 Gogan, 4 Gogan, 4 Gogan. And I think the best way to kind of hose Viserai is kind of presenting a super long chain, and then they obviously don't want to block. If they're like blocking, like if say it's 4 Gogan, 4 Gogan, 4 Gogan, they gave up 3 cards. Obviously not very good to Warmongers right there. You probably just want to Starfall and make a Rune Chant or make an Embodiment. Just because if they have 2 cards, they're probably going to choose Peace anyway and make a bunch of Rune Chants. But this card is really best when they're not blocking. Say they take 12 because they know that they have more Riptide, they have Sonata, they have some sort of plan to attack you for a lot of damage on their turn. You play Warmongers at the end to hose them because they've kept all these non-attack action cards or attack action cards to be able to swing back on their turn, and now they're shut out. They have to choose peace or they have to choose war and be okay with like a mediocre turn. So it's the best way to kind of hose Viserai, I think, after a long chain. But you definitely have to use it very carefully because it could also screw up your turn. And if you use it unwisely, if you use it after they've blocked a lot, they'll probably just choose peace anyway. So you have to be very smart with Warmongers. There were several times where I played Warmongers and I drew up into Burn Up Shock or Arc Lightning, and it made it very awkward. But Aurora is good enough at converting her hands where it won't matter. You can use it to pitch for Starfall and whatnot too. So Warmongers doesn't hurt her as much as it does the other Runeblade, so that's why she's able to run it in her deck. And then we'll go over Vaporized Shock, actually, as the last card that was a maybe here. I don't think it was in my maybe section, so I've been seeing a lot of love for this card. So Vaporized Shock is a Runeblade Lightning instant, so Aurora can play this. Destroy an Aurora permanent with cost X or less, or up to X Aura tokens, where X is the total arcane damage that you've dealt to heroes this turn. Deal 1 arcane damage to any target. So this is 0 cost. Both sides, you can do both sides no matter what. Something you can do that's insane in this deck is when Viserai goes ahead to swing and make rune chants, what you could do is you could actually Vaporize Shock the rune chant and the Malefic Incantation, and now they're kind of stuck on resources, and it can kind of break their turn as well if you're able to kind of stop their resource generating. It's a lot of value to kind of Vaporize Shock that. Could be a turn ender sometimes too, so a pretty insane card that I think is going to be in a lot of decks, but we'll probably rotate out once Viserai is done. Once Viserai is done, I don't see this card seeing a lot of play just because its main sort of purpose was that Viserai matchup, but it could see play if, what's their name? Vincent shows up a lot. So if Vincent shows up a lot, definitely could see this card getting a lot more play too. All right, moving on to that was basically the deck. That's the 80 I played. There are some maybe cards in the pile, like Thou You God, Blink. I think these are just like feeler cards that I've had for a while, but for the most part, this was kind of the 80 that I was super comfortable with going into the meta that I thought was going to show up at my RTN, and it showed up pretty successfully to what I thought was going to happen. I played a lot of good matchups. I played a lot of matchups that I was prepped for, so I had a lot of preparation and knowledge into those matchups, so definitely helped me win my RTN on Aurora. So we're going to get into the tournament report. So let me go over to the next page. Let me warn you right now, I'm using Notepad on the online, so it's going to be very bright and white. So if you're sensitive to bright stuff, just shield your eyes or put on some sunglasses. I know it's going to be weird to put on sunglasses if you're watching inside, but just giving you a warning right now. Boom. Just pure Notepad. Isn't that great? Sweet. All right, so going over our tournament report, I'm basically going to go through all the rounds, explain what happened in top 8, or explain top 8 kind of like breakdown, and then go over each matchup, and then explain a little bit about the matchup, what would happen, if there's any particular occasions or plays that I was wanted to bring up, just because there's a lot of specific stuff with Aurora where you're going to be doing very like specific things to kind of gain advantages in that way, like somersaulting, or like use sequencing in a very unique way to kind of get the damage through. So there's a lot of minute things with Aurora, and that's what really sets her apart from other decks. She's not very linear. She's very toolboxy. So starting off the day at the Classic Constructed RTN at Top Deck Keep in Riverside. So great store. Shout out to Tyler and Connor who judged this event. Tyler and Connor are both players, but today Tyler donned the judge shirt. He was looking mighty strong in that one, I guess is the word. It was a little tight on him, but it showed off his muscles well. He told me that it was a couple years old, so shout out to Tyler there for flexing his muscles. And then Connor, who's judging all these events too, was also a judge there too. So 2 judges today, felt very secure in making sure pace of play was good and everything. So I'm really excited and happy with how it turned out. Play was super clean from my end. Like I didn't really have any judge calls, so I guess everyone was doing a really good job. Tournament started at a good time. Place was awesome. So nothing but accolades, I guess, to give to Top Deck Keep out there in Riverside. Definitely visit if you're ever out there. Sorry if you were in Riverside because that city is something else. But Top Deck Keep is almost like an oasis, like a mirage in the desert. It's a very good place if you ever find yourself in that city. Going into the first matchup, we play Viserai. This is one of the locals here. I guess I played only against locals in Southern California, but I played against Gage, who sometimes comes to my armory when he's in the area. But he played Viserai. Funny story, Gage accidentally, I don't know if he's in the chat right now, but he accidentally washed his 3 shelters from the storm. Like I guess he put it in his jacket and threw in the washer, and they just got washered and dryered. And he posted a picture, and it was just a whole debacle. Rip shelters indeed, Moises. He presented the cards in double sleeve, I think, and presented to the judge to see if it could still work. And they did not work. Like, you could definitely find them in the deck. So he got judge officiated proxies, official proxies. It was smooth sailing after that, but it was just an unfortunate and a weird thing to happen, I guess. Like, Gage, you got to check your pockets, man. Like, that's not a thing. That's just clear your pockets before you throw them in the washer, just in case. Played Viserai. I got to go second because Viserai won the dice roll and went first. So they were able to set up Rune Chance to start. I think they played 1 Malefic Yellow and played activated Grass and passed. I was able to do a very cool thing where I had I think it was a lightning card. I forgot what lightning card it was. I think it was just some... Oh, no, it was Lightning Surge. Oh, okay. So my hand was Entwined Lightning, Lightning Surge, and Warmonger. So I knew if they didn't attack me at all, I could double go again for 4/4, and then end my turn with Warmongers and Arsenal Lightning Surge, which is an insanely good turn because you're set up for the next turn with Lightning card and Arsenal that has innate go again, and you can Warmongers them if they take the damage. So my turn started off with 4/4. Viserai decided not to block because they had a really good hand to kind of convert, and then I played Warmongers. They took 8 damage for free, and now they're locked into a peace turn to set up more Rune Chance. It was very inefficient because they had a bunch of attacks, so they ended up making, I think, like 2 or 3 more Rune Chance and pass again. So I just had tempo from the start, and it just snowballed into a very convincing win after that, I think. That's just showcases how powerful Warmongers can be into Viserai, where you kind of lead this long chain. The Viserai doesn't block because they think that they can just keep their hand and trade more damage back, and then all of a sudden Warmongers comes out and it just completely hoses them. So a very good card, and I think it's necessary if Viserai is still in your meta. And I think it's still going to be legal for RTNs this weekend, so I think definitely play Warmongers in your deck. Next, we have Arcane Marionette. We play against Christopher Iali, who is our team captain here at Arcane Games and Events Pro Team. Here's our team captain, and fun fact, this was the 3rd RTN we played. The first 2 were both draft, and Chris won them both. Chris won both RTNs, and he told me after the second RTN that I told him, please leave some ELO and invites for the rest of us, and he said, now that I've won 2, I have to win them all. So knowing Chris, he could definitely live up to that standard. So I knew once I got his name, I told him that his run stops here, and I want to win because I want to stop him. And I was very fortunate enough to beat him. It was a very good match. He's playing Marionette. Very back and forth, but I was able to kind of efficiently block with somersaults, blocking 6 with somersault. If he ended up piercing it over with like a Razor's Edge or a discard to go +3, I would just Sigil Suffering. There were often times where I was able to draw a card off Sigil Suffering as well. So just an overall really good matchup, I think, into Arcane. And if there is ever any like hand where you feel like you can't block, you can just take the Mark of the Black Widow and discard your useless instant and then kind of still convert your hand after that too. So I think just overall a really good matchup. I know that Arcane doesn't really run 0 for 4 D-Reacts. They run like the layer traps that trigger and mark, so like Mark of the Spider, or they run like the Outsiders traps that they can search off whatchamacallit. They usually run traps because they all block for 3 and you can use them off trapdoors, so they don't really use Sink Below or Fate Foreseen or Shelter from the Storm. They usually use traps. So Aurora being a 0 for 4 deck against a deck that only blocks 3 is really good, and you're not getting any help from your armor because Arcane Marionette usually uses Snapdragon Scalers, which doesn't block. Tunic and Flick Knives, which you don't want to block with early, and then the Mask is Blade Break 2, so once you block with it, you don't have it anymore. So when you're struggling for blocking against a deck that always has breakpoints, it's going to be a pretty rough matchup, I think. So Aurora decidedly takes in that one. Marionette was a good matchup, and we start off 2-0. Next, we sit down against a San Diego local, Inez. I ended up playing her twice. And she's playing new, and I found out from scouting that she's playing CYB new, so I knew to put in Poison the Well and put in a little bit of a different sideboard to kind of go wide. Usually against new aggressive news, you want to put in your shelters and your sink pillows, your sigil of sufferings. But in this matchup, I thought about either fat decking or kind of going down on D-Reacts. But in this Swiss matchup, I decided to put in all my D-Reacts in the case that she might be a little bit more aggressive, or my scouting wasn't very proper, and maybe she's playing a more aggressive version of CYB. I just knew that she was on CYB, but she could easily sideboard it out. So I played more D-Reacts just in case to kind of fat deck, and I knew that they couldn't hurt because I could just always discard them if it's an on hit that I care about, or I can use it to block, like leave no witnesses on Codex turns and stuff like that. So still hyper efficient. Ended up doing a lot of damage. I think turn 0 I set up a Channel Lightning Valley, and I think before the first Count Your Blessings was even played, I got and is down to 8 health. So it was just like a train, just non-stop train that just kept doing damage, and it was just really hard to stop everything. Like they blocked with their arms and legs really early, so they lost the break point on that, and then I just did so much damage every turn and kept drawing cards, kept playing Arc Lightnings. I just basically never let up, and it was a very convincing win. So super excited to get that one. And as always plays very disruptive decks, so it's always tough to play against it. But she loves Assassin, so it's always fun to play against her because it's so interactive. And then next we go to Viserai. So next we lose this one. This is our only loss of the day, which is good for us, but bad in the moment because we wanted to 4-0 and guarantee top 8. But we losing to Viserai. We actually lost to a Kickstarter local. His name's Philip. He is relatively new, but he's gotten in the game. He's played a lot ever since. He's kind of addicted to the game, so he's one of those like recently joined but played a lot because he's just spamming the game, and he's playing a deck that I've never seen him play in my life. He's playing Viserai. He usually plays Azalea, but he's on Viserai today, and he's just churn, and he's making all these rune chants. He's playing everything correctly, sequencing correctly, making plays that are very aggressive, and playing to his out. So I'm really proud of how he played. He ended up 6-0ing Swiss. Unfortunately, lost in quarters. Losing the matchup where it would have qualified him for Nats. But he 6-0'd Swiss, so I was super proud of him. Super exciting to see like new players that show up at your locals kind of convert at these events. It was a very interesting game. I went first. Actually, did I go first? I think I went first, yes. I think I won the dice roll, so I went first. So I was able to, when I go first against Viserai and the Aurora Mirror, I typically like to run Tunic and Snapdragon Scalers because it allows me to kind of convert my hand and be more aggressive right away. And then kind of them having the tempo usually on the first turn doesn't really matter or the second turn, because they usually don't attack you on the second turn. They usually kind of have a setup turn. So being able to set up turn 0 and like kind of have 5 cards to attack them with, is a really good tool, especially with Snapdragon Scalers if you ever draw a brick hand. And then your Tunic getting to 3 so fast is really good too. We had a really close game. We go all the way down to, I think, 1 life to 2 life. And I just need a Burn of Shock to kill. Or Sigil of Suffering. And I don't have AB, so I can't really AB anything. So we're just waiting until Philip can make 2 rune chants to kill me, basically. And there's a turn where he has 2 rune chants. He swings in with the 1 card left in his hand, which is Rune Rager Blue. So he's literally just doing it to... it was in his arsenal. So he's had to swing it, and he pitched out, and he swings in for 2 rune chants. I have no AB. I don't have my sigil. I think I already played all my sigils. So I just need Burn Up Shock because I can't get to the defense reaction phase of Sigil of Suffering. So I finished my turn, and he already played his turn. He played out 2 rune chants and Rune Rager from Arsenal. That's all I have. If you have Burn Up Shock, you got me. I dropped my 4 cards, and none of them are Burn Up Shock. So I ended up dying to arcane damage there. Super close game. Wish I could have won it, but really happy with Phil playing to his out and just kind of getting me there. After the game, he told me that he totally forgot about Burn Up Shock as well, so he thought that he had it in the bag unless I had Sigil of Solace, which is funny because I was in my head, I was hoping so badly for a burn up shock, and he was just like, please don't be Sigil Solace, please don't be Sigil Solace. That's because I run 2 in the deck and not 3, so probably is why he's thinking that. So we're 3-1 at this point. Still feeling pretty good. The deck's still humming, and we know that if we play clean for the next 2 rounds, we definitely get into top 8. So next we play against the Syndra. Let me double check. I forget their name. I want to give a shout out because I want to make sure I get every name right that I play against. Let's see. I play against Rolando. There we go. Rolando from San Diego as well. He's playing Syndra. So it's a very aggressive matchup. I get to go second. And I'm able to kind of block very well. I present all my blocking equipment and Snapdragon scalers. And I'm able to, basically deny mask every turn with my blocking equipment and my somersaults and my D-reacts. I block pretty well, usually following that rule of either blocking the first chain or the third chain, depending on what my hand context looks like and their hand context looks like. Just trying to deny that mask as much as possible. And there's a turn where I just let the mask go through, just because I'm able to convert my 5-card hand with Arc Lightning very well. And in the case that they mask a momentum there too, like I'm not unhappy about it, because if I have a 5-card hand with Arc Lightning and they end up like ancestral empowering something, and also drawing off mask, I can draw another card and now convert a 6-card hand into a Syndra that doesn't block very well. So I ended up getting there with a couple powerful turns, and it was just pretty insane. We get down to pretty low life, so I think I get down to 1 or 2, and they get down to 1 to 1, and I draw a burn up shock and a blue, and I know that if I just burn up shock and make a rune chant and swing, they get to they die if they don't have specifically Shelter from the Storm, because they didn't run AB, so they have to have Shelter from the Storm to not die. So knowing that, I just made a rune chant and swung 1, just in the case that if they wanted to block it, they would have to use Shelter right then and there. So they ended up taking it and going to 1, and I now have Burn Up Shock in Arsenal. And then they ended up using their fealty token to start their turn, and in response to the fealty token before any Flick Knife shenanigans, we were down 1-1, so I used Burn Up Shock, and they did not have a Shelter from the Storm, so I ended up taking that one. Pretty close game, super close game, just coming down to that last unpreventable damage, essentially, so super happy to take that out. At this point, I'm 4-1, I've lost only round 4, and Philip's still undefeated, so I think my tiebreakers are good. I think if I lose this one, I still get in. But I really want to get a higher seed just to be able to choose first or second. So going to the last match, I played against John, who's also from San Diego. So I guess I played 3 San Diego members. John, he's my fellow Riptide brethren. He loves Riptide as well. But for just today, I guess we were both try-harding a little bit more with Aurora and playing a more like meta hero to try to get there in qualification. So I played John. And I get to go first because he wins the die roll and goes second. So I present no AB with Snapdragons and Tunic. And he presents Lightning Greaves, Diadic, all the blocking equipment with AB. And I am immediately punished. I have no AB, so I play on my turns. And he plays Channel Lightning Valley, Sigil, and then Sigil on the next turn. And I'm just like, I'm down like 15 life. He's got tempo. He's got all the cards. And there's a turn where he like drew 2 cards. And he had like 6 cards in hand, 7 cards in hand, and he struggled to convert. Like he had D-reacts, he had hands where he had to pitch Starfall, make an embodiment to swing again. So he did a lot of damage, but I was down like about like 15 to 20 life after that turn. But I had full tempo, and he didn't have an embodiment to start next turn, and he doesn't have snaps to kind of power the turn if he draws awkward. So I had this insanely big hand. I think I had 6 cards because I had an Arsenal, Arc Lightning in hand, and then he drew 2 cards off E-Strike Go again, draw a card, and Channel Lightning Valley, so I drew a card. So I hit him with a 6-card Arc Lightning turn. He full blocks it, but I still leak like 5 or 6 damage. On the next turn, I Arc Lightning again, and he tries to full block it this time, so I just maintain the full tempo throughout the game, and he draws pretty awkward. And after those 2 really big Arc Lightning turns, I was able to convert my hands over and over, and eventually kill him just through so much damage at the end. So really fortunate to be able to draw hot, I guess. If he had a really good hand to combat that 6-card Arc Lightning hand, like if he had a really good hand to do like 20 more damage on a 4-card hand, he might have been able to get there, but his hand was really bad. So he ended up blocking and never really drew another answer again because I was threatening too much damage to kind of maintain tempo there. or to kind of steal back tempo from John's end. So we finish up Swiss 5-1. Shout out to the Honda Pilot. All 3 Honda Pilot members that played in the tournament, all 2 people that came with me, we all top 8'd. Alan, who's playing CYB Jarl, and then Jarek, who's you can see in the top 8 over there, playing CYB Fang. So now we go into top 8. So top 8 gets announced. I'm 3rd seed, so I'm super happy because I get to choose whether or not to go 1st or 2nd in my first match, and that's the most important one because it's the Nationals qualifier. So ahead of me are 2 Viserais. One of them is Philip, who I played and lost to. He went 6-0. And then the second Viserai is Evan, who's also on the HPO team. He's playing Viserai as well to kind of qualify and he was trying to get onto the the role of honor for Viserai. Unfortunately, he couldn't win. But he got his qualification, so I'm super happy for him. He ends up getting. I ended up beating him in the top 4, so we'll go over that in that match. You got me and Aurora on 3rd, and then we have Jarek. Let me tell you a little bit about this Fang deck real quick. So this Fang deck caught everyone off guard. We were driving up. We were doing our usual coffee run. We're driving up because Riverside's a little bit far. And I'm saying, I'm playing Aurora just because she's hyper consistent, giving Jarek and Alan basically this feel that I'm giving you guys right now. Alan's playing Guardian. He loves Guardian. He's playing CYB Jarl. It's just good. And then Jarek says, yeah, I'm playing Fang. And we're both like, really? Like, you're playing Fang? Like, we're going really far for a tournament. You really want to play Fang? He's like, yeah, man, I built this deck myself. I'm really proud of it. I hope it does really well. So we're like super like interested in how he's going to do it. We start talking about combos with Obsidian Fire Vein. He's like, yeah, I don't really have any of that. And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, like, I don't really have a lot of reds in my deck. Like, they're mostly just all blues. And we're like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, I really just like, I don't even have the Obsidian Fire Veins in my deck. And that's when it clicked. Because I know Jarek always plays CYB Dory. And he loves CYB. So I was like, oh my god, he's on CYB Fang. And he just started like cracking up in the car. Because we figured it out. And he's like, be quiet though. Like, only you guys can know if anything gets out. Like, my tournament run is ruined. Because I'm hoping that my first few opponents and maybe all day just hope that I'm on aggro Fang. And they just present 60 and try to race. So I was like, okay, we'll see how it goes. The first 3 matchups he plays, auto wins because the opponent only presents 60 cards and they just do not expect Great Axe Fang or Decimated Great Axe Fang. Fang. He gets 3 free wins basically because people were just sideboarding wrong. I watched an Aurora. Shout out to Luke who's learning Aurora now or picked up Aurora right now too. We talked a little bit about our decks after. Luke presented only 60 cards into Jarek's 72. And I think with like 9 cards left in deck, he just looks at me. He's like, Anthony, look, I got him back down to 40 at starting health. And I was like, this is just sad. I'm so sorry that you had to go through this. And Jarek just like slaughtered everybody all day. He unfortunately lost in his top 8 match, so he didn't qualify either. But it was definitely a funny deck seeing all day. People were just murmuring all day about CYB Fang. I think by round 4, it was like coming around the grapevine that he's playing CYB Fang, so everyone knew that he was on it now. So the jig was up after 3 rounds, but he still won 2 out of the last 3 rounds, so he's able to get into that 4th seed. At 5th place, we have Del Taco and Syndra. He just came back. I gave him my wax-ons for the day, so he was using some of my cards. But he just came back and ended up top 4ing on Syndra and qualifying for that. So super happy for him. Glad he qualified. Played super clean all day, I think. I think there was like a judge call in top 4, but I don't think it ended up mattering. But really big congratulations to a fellow Anthony out there, Next, we have CYB New, who is an Ez who I played in Swiss, and it ends up being my first round opponent because we're 3rd seed versus 6th seed. And she squeaked into 6th place. Jesus, tongue twister. Next is Alan Lube, who has his own YouTube channel. Go support him. He is on CYB Jarl. I unfortunately did not play him all day, so that's good. I hate playing against Jarl because of the ice cards, and even more so the CYB, so glad I dodged him all day. And then lastly is John, who's he lost to me in the final round of Swiss, ended up squeaking in there at the 8th seed at 4-2. So glad he got in as well. I'm glad that our last matchup ended up not mattering because we both got in, but I'm definitely happy that I won the last match because it lets me go 1st or 2nd basically throughout the rest of the tournament. Going into that, knowing the top 8, I felt pretty comfortable. Like I like my matchup in the Viscera. I'm very comfortable in the mirror, and the CYB decks might be a little bit rough, but I have Poison the Well, and I have a lot of damage density to be able to get through that. Syndra is always a little bit weird because of the ability to block out. Like they could just have baller turns, and I have instances sometimes. Even though I tech the deck to kind of block 3 a little bit better, there are turns where you just draw 2 somersaults, no attacks, and it just gets bad. And then against Fang, I told Jarek that if I play against his Fang, I'm going to destroy him. And I knew I was going to destroy him. Like he had no secrets. I knew his entire deck. He was playing CYB Warrior, and I knew that Aurora just has so much split damage that it's just going to be too tough to block. Didn't end up playing Jarek at all, but I know in my heart, in my deepest thoughts, that if I played him at all, I would have destroyed him. So shout out to Jarek though for top 8 with CYB Fang. I don't think anyone saw that coming. I think that's a deck that you probably can't ever bring to another tournament because people will know. I told him after the tournament that he should bring aggro Fang to the next one, and then people would think he's CYB, and then he would get the first 3 wins for free because everyone's kind of talking that he's CYB, and he ends up just destroying people with aggro Fang. So going into the top 8, we play New. So now we're playing New. This is a rematch of Swiss. This time I get to choose side selection. I end up choosing first as well because I don't want them to do any shenanigans on turn 0 and affect my hand anyway, or try to cheat out tempo with like reactions. So I go first. I set up a Channel Lightning Valley, and I have a blue and a red. So I'm able to play Channel Lightning Valley, make a Rune Chant, and make an Embodiment and pass. So that's like an insane start. But my next few hands, like my first 3 hands, were really bad. So I basically never got going until like later on in the game. And Inez hit me with the first turn. He hit me with Persuasive Prognosis. I blocked with Grasp of the Arcanite to maintain my hand because I had an Embodiment and a full Channel Lightning Valley with the Rune Chant. I wanted to keep everything, and then ended up double just nicking my hand. So I took 9 damage, and had to. They took one of the best cards in my hand with Persuasive Prognosis. Throughout the game, I'm just, we're trading back and forth. I had some good tempo turns, so that forces her to block. And then I see my Poison the Well kind of like near like turn 6 or 7. And I know that there are only 2 CYBs in. So if I keep this, it's not full value. But I know that if I pitch it, I might not get back to the stack. So my turn is a little bit better if I end up pitching it. And I think I do enough damage to warrant not saving the CYB. So I use it to power my turn with Starfall, make an Embodiment for the next turn, and it just kind of sets me up to do more damage. I kind of stabilize after a while. There's some timely D-reacts. I forgot to mention, this matchup, since she knew that I went on 6 D-reacts the first time, this time I took out Shelter and just played a little bit more lean and a little bit more aggressive to try to catch her off guard. And it did not work early because I got smoked early, but I was able to stabilize and do a lot of damage with some pretty big Arc Lightning turns. And was able to force through blocks, and eventually just, I think I had a good amount of cards, that's like 15 cards left, and I ended up damaging her out. I think she played the last CYB in her deck, healed for 7 or 8, but the next card at the top of my deck was Poison the Well, so we almost got back to the stack, just needed to draw 1 more card. And it would have been lethal too, because I think they were at 3 and they healed to 10, and Poison the Well would just put them down to -5 or whatever it may be. And killed them. So very good. We won the game. Super excited because now I'm qualified for Nats. I don't have to worry about the stress of going to Road to Nationals anymore. Now we're qualified. Now we can play meme decks for the rest of the week or the weeks. So super happy about that. But the job's not over, as Kobe says. The job's not finished. Next we play Evan, who has been roaring through Swiss all day, and he has also qualified. So we're both pretty happy now. He ends up choosing first because he is the highest seed now after he beat or after Philip lost to John on Aurora. So he's the highest seed now. So if he wins, he gets side selection for the rest of the time. If I win, I get side selection for the rest of the time too, because Evan is the highest seed in front of me. So if I win and beat Evan, the next opponent I have is guaranteed to have a worse seed than me. So I'm able to have side selection if I beat Evan. He elects to go first, and his turn is literally pitch 2 reds, make a Rune Chant, pass, and I'm just... Thank you for having a bad hand for once, Evan. Like, thank you for not high rolling. We end up playing a pretty close game. It's super back and forth. I do so much damage early, and I think I'm still at 40 or 30 something, like high 30s, and he's at 20. But he has like 6 rune chants. So I'm off to an incredible lead. I went first, so I elected to play. I think I played Tunic. No, I went second, so I played Dyadic and Lightning Greaves. So played the usual slots against Viscerai. So I had AB this time around against Viscerai. And we get into this weird game state at the end. We're both at 1, and Evan doesn't want to pitch out because he's scared of Burn Up Shock. So he's just swinging for 3 without reacting, without making Rune Chant. And I am not drawing Burn Up Shock, so I have to block for 3. Evan blocks out on his turn and then swings for 3 again, so it's just like this constant cycle. And there's a turn where I eventually do enough damage to strip Evan all the way down to 1 card. And he can either swing for 3 and keep 1 floating, but he decides that if he just keeps doing this, he'll lose the trade. So what he's going to do is he's going to make a Rune Chant and then swing Sword. So hopefully draw 2 or 3 cards out of my deck, if none of them block 3. And I end up having the Burn Up Shock. So as soon as he makes the Rune Chant and swings, I play Burn Up Shock, and he just dies to the 1 Arcane because he has none floating. So very close game. It's a super weird end game because we're basically both playing 1 or 2 card hands. But I got there because I drew Burn Up Shock when he pitched out. So very fun. We're in the finals. Super excited because there's a gold foil on the line. I really want to win. Generous enough to have the stroke credit prizing already. The playmat prizing was cool. I think the winner gets Orb Weaver and the loser gets Syndra, so win-win. But I really want that gold foil. So we end up going into the final, and I'm matched against John, who I played in the last round of Swiss. He ends up beating Philip on Viscerai, who was undefeated, and he ends up beating Del Taco on Del Taco's actual name is Anthony, but he goes by Del Taco. He ends up beating DT on Syndra, so he ends up in the finals with me. And we're playing. I get first seat, so I have higher seat, so I like to go second, and I start off with the Lightning Greaves. I had a Carapace just to prevent any arcane shenanigans. So this time I'm a little bit more prepped for Sigil Suffering, Channel Lightning Valley, and we're just trading back and forth. And there's this. Sometimes you just draw hot. I drew an Arc Lightning with 4 sources of go again naturally. So Arc Lightning, I think it was like Rabble, Sigil, not Sigil, Second Strike, the Snatch. It's just insane. He ends up responding with like an Arc Lightning of his own, and he plays like a Giant Chain. And I just have a good hand again with Arc Lightning, so I'm just like, no blocks, take everything. It's not an on-hit, take everything. And I'm like, all the way down to 11, and then finally he plays Snatch, and I just throw my arms and my chess piece in front of it, block 4, and now I have full tempo. I blocked with the Snatch. He only has 4 cards, and I do another giant Arc Lightning turn, and it's just steals all the tempo. He has to full block just to kind of come back, and then he plays like a 0 for 4. I take it again, and now I return with another 4 card, like insane amount of damage, and then he ends up not being able to block everything because he is stuck with a Channel Lightning Valley and an Electrostatic Discharge in hand. So end up winning the RTN. Super fun. Just great games all around, all day. So congrats to John for a great run, and it couldn't have gone either way, but I'm happy that I played well to get there. So yeah, congrats to everybody. Super excited. I ended up opening the gold foil. Let me see if I can show it. So this gold foil, I ended up winning it. I opened it on live, so with everyone there. And I did not, unfortunately, get a Majestic. So, funny story. The first 2 RTNs, Chris won both. So, he wins both, and he gets 2 Majestics. The first one, he got Metacarpus Nodes, which is insane. And then he gets Dread Scythe, which is less insane, but still a Majestic. So, happy for Chris. So, I'm like, wow. RTNs are 2 for 2 in gold foils. Like, what could the third one possibly be? And I got a common, but it's still a good common. I don't know if you guys can see it. You can see my webcam, sick. I got Tide Flippers, which is super cool. It will go probably in my Fai deck, unless someone wants it. Gold foil Fai, just like all non-foil equipment, and then the gold foil Tide Flippers in like a sideboard, as a sideboard slot. So I was telling Chris that he could play Metacarpus Nodes in certain wizard decks, and he's like, no, there's other sideboard pieces that are there's other main board pieces that are better. But I was like, what a flex it would be to just have like a goal full in your sideboard slot. You know, like it's not even your main piece; it's just in your sideboard, just in case you need it. So super happy to win out on the day and ended up with a good goal full that I enjoy. So I'm happy about it. Shout out to Evan, who is still trying to move his breaking scales to no avail so far. So it's pretty funny. He asks every time he plays against someone and he's there during their goal full opening, he asks them if they open a goal full breaking scales from this pack, would they be happy? And because he would give to them. And he would take the unopened one. And so far, everyone has emphatically said no. So good luck to Evan to try to find a home for that breaking scales. I'm keeping my tide flippers, Evan. Sorry. Isaac says, "What's up, Anthony?" What's up, Isaac? How's it going, man? Isaac is a Lake Forest local down at the shop. So super thankful for you joining the stream here, Isaac. I'm just basically closing up. But yeah, that's basically the tournament. I had a lot of fun. I would definitely suggest running this list. I'll post it one more time in the chat. I would definitely suggest running this list if you're looking to qualify in these last 2 weeks. It's a good meta call. Viserai is still legal, so this deck is definitely still tech for this sort of meta. If Viserai is not legal, I would say that Warmongers is a free 3 slots that you can take back and kind of put anywhere else you'd like. Maybe it's like Calming Breeze if you want to stop the Cinder damage, or maybe it's another D-React to stop Arachne. There's a lot of tools in the deck right now to stop Assassin, or like all decks. So definitely give it a try if you're looking to convert to a good time at your local RTNs. But good luck to anyone that's not qualified so far. You have 2 more weeks. Hopefully you can either draft your way over there, or you can steal some wins in CC and get there too. So good luck to everyone at their future RTNs. I won't be playing in any this week, unfortunately, just because I got a work trip to go to. But I'll be back the week after that to play at a CC RTN. So I might bring Fai just to try him out. We don't need to try hard to qualify anymore. So we might bring a more fun deck, a more anti-meta deck, I guess you could say, to the RTN. So I'm looking forward to that. But unfortunately, also no stream next week, just because I'll be on that work trip. So we'll probably be back on March 4th. I know it's a long ways away, but March 4th with probably a tournament report, hopefully a good one for our RTN on that last weekend. So once again, thank you everyone for watching. Good luck on your future RTNs. I know it's a shorter stream today, but I'm a little bit tired too. Just going over deck tech with Aurora. But good luck to everyone playing in your RTNs. Hopefully you guys win and qualify, and I'll see you all in Vegas for now.